Venturing off into new knowledge requires you to have a community. But here's the fundamental problem that you're going to face. So, venturing off into new knowledge, this is where I would classify your PhD life doing research. I would also put in other activities like innovation and R&D and other areas of your life that are venturing off into something that you haven't done before. It requires a community. And this community can be people that resonate with you, have the same language, that you can have a conversation with, that have had similar experiences with you. But there's a problem that I think is quite poignant, is that you don't know what this community is and who this community is until you've actually done it, until you've actually built something and done something and have a story to tell. And so there's this balance that you face when you do these things, such as getting a PhD, where you were alone and you face a lot of loneliness, a tremendous amount of loneliness, and at the same time, you cannot build that community until you have that sense of loneliness, until you know who you are. And I fundamentally believe this, that there is this sort of challenge that you face of being an outsider, somebody that disassociates, whatever you want to call it, but you need that feeling to identify people that are in your particular community that get what you are doing. And there is this tension that is often felt and built and done um, when you do anything of venturing that you have to balance. You need a community. That community is not going to identify itself, and they're not there often, but you need to step up and do it and to have that community. But the only way you identify that particular community and have that support group is until you actually have those experiences where you're lonely or lost or anything along that lines. And the only way that you get those feelings is when you venture off into something that somebody else hasn't done. So, how do you do that? How do you build that community? What do you do? I think the key thing is balancing being open about who you are and what you're about, and going through those moments where you have had enough hard knocks and have enough distrust and enough, like, you don't believe people until you have to have those experiences so that you can identify the people that are legitimate. There's a reason why experience actually is a really good predictor of how well you're going to pan out. There is a lot of people, I want you to sort of think about this if you're making any particular decision and thinking about things, is that a lot of people are shallow. They don't have that much to say, that um, there is, some people are well intentioned. A lot of there's lots of people that are well intentioned, but not everybody is. And to the degree that that is, and the sort of flavors of all of that, you can't identify that. So the only way that you can identify that is, and you don't have that experience. You develop and hone that experience. The only way that you can do that is by getting out there and going through many, many, many hard knocks, and as well as feeling that pain often to actually find it. And in my experience, this has been the fundamental thing, is that identifying that group that you belong to, that you're part of, that is there, that is not going to jump up at you. That is not going to be something that people are going to say, come over. um, It's you that have to look at this and say, I am going to go through this experience and I am going to not know what I'm doing. I'm going to have a lot of pain, a lot of distrust, but I'm going to do this anyways. And that's how I'm actually going to find that group that resonates, that group that is part of what you are doing and understand what you're doing. And that's the only way that you go through it, is when you say something, it's going to be on deaf ears to most people because they don't get it. This is a fundamental flaw that you will see, is you will never get people to understand what you're about until they experience it themselves. And once they experience it, they will jump up and they will say, that's me. I've gone through that. I've done that many times before. And the only way that you can do that, to identify that group, is to go through the experiences and talk about those experiences. That's why I think like groups like Alcoholics Anonymous, NA Anonymous, and other support groups like that, I think are fundamentally great, is because these identifying these moments where other people are going through the same struggles is next to impossible. And the only way that you can identify those particular people that can be supportive, that have you there, is going through it and talking about it, and in a secure and friendly way, and all of those kind of things. Otherwise nobody gets it. You need to be part of, you need to have your own story to say, your own struggles where you're alone. And then once you're alone and people have rejected you and all of that kind of stuff, once that has happened, then you can find that group. But the only way that you can find that group is by talking, and talking about your experiences, where you say, what the hell? Why is this happening? So I encourage you to, first of all, feel that pain, embrace it, but on the other side, be brave enough to speak about it. Be brave enough to speak up and to say, this is what happened. And I'm okay with that. And it's nobody's fault, but this is what's happened. And I encourage you to do that repeatedly. Build that inner strength when you deal with moments that are frustrating and lonely and all of those things that you go through. But on the other side, go about and talk about those experiences in a quiet and polite way. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.